Today is Wednesday, and I put up a question box on my Instagram probably last week, asking you guys if you had any questions, personal, soccer related, fitness related, whatever it was, you were free to ask, and I'm here to sit down and discuss all the questions with you guys. So first, I had to make myself some tea. I have been on a tea crave / binge lately. I have tea like every single morning and or in the afternoon, sometimes both. But let's get to the point. Okay, so first things first, I'm gonna start out with the most asked question. It was asked in probably 3 different ways, but it was all the same question in the end. The most highly asked question was, what are your plans post-graduation? Are you going pro? And are you entering the NWSL draft? The answer to all of that is, yes, I have entered the NWSL draft. The draft is on December 18th. It is December 15th, so it's 3 days away, and I am patiently waiting to see where I'm headed, and fingers crossed to hopefully get drafted. So you guys will see a new video of the entire draft day when the day comes, but yes, I did enter the draft, and I do plan on playing professionally, so fingers crossed. You guys, I was so fortunate to receive a box of Built Bars from Built, and these protein bars are unlike any protein bar I have ever tried before. The texture of these protein bars is so different from other protein bars on the market. It is not chalky or anything like that. It's actually pretty marshmallowy, so the consistency is different than a typical protein bar. And they have 18 different flavors, so there's bound to be a flavor that's right for you. There are fruity flavors like raspberry, more savory flavors like mint brownie, and my personal favorite is this peanut butter brownie. And my favorite part about these Built Bars is the nutrition profile. These bars are low in calories, super high in protein, and they're gluten-free, which is super important to me because I have a gluten intolerance. So if you'd like to try any of those Built Bar flavors or anything on the Built website, you can use my code at checkout, EliseB10, or use the link in my description box. The next question someone asked was, how long have you been playing soccer for and what age did you start? And this is kind of a complicated question because I've actually only been playing soccer for about like 6 years in total, including both my injuries, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But I started when I was super young, maybe like 5. I did soccer tots, that's what it was called back home. And then I stopped playing soccer for a while and I played a variety of different sports. And then I eventually landed on soccer probably my 7th grade year. And then I endured 2 different injuries. So in total, I've been playing for about 5 or 6 years. Someone asked, what made you choose soccer? So kind of bouncing off all of that, when I tried all those different sports, I had narrowed everything down to either track or soccer, and I really enjoyed both. But the biggest distinguishing factor was whether I wanted to play a team sport or whether I wanted to do individual sports. And I just found that it was much more gratifying to me and much more enjoyable to be a part of a team. And I loved track, don't get me wrong. I ran 100-meter hurdles, 100-meter dash, and I did high jump. And then I did a 4x100 meter relay. But it just wasn't the same feeling of satisfaction for me. But I love soccer and I love the opportunities that it has provided me, and I'm so glad that I made the decision to play soccer. Someone then asked, what position did you start off playing and what other position would you want to play? And I can't really recall playing a specific position when I was younger. I think I was just kind of like playing wherever. But for the longest time that I can remember, I've always played forward. I've never really played any other position other than sometimes in the midfield. But for the majority of the time, I've always been a forward. I really do enjoy playing forward, and I love being on the offensive side of things, but if I had to convert to another position, it would probably be an outside back. The next question was, what was your major? And I started out as just a biology major, And then when I decided to take my 5th year, I had enough credits in psychology from my minor to end up majoring in that and finishing it before I left this semester. So I double majored basically in biology and psychology, and I have a degree in both. How did you stay motivated / tips for staying motivated? I feel like this question is asked a lot among athletes or just in general, but I want to just put it out there that everyone struggles with motivation at some point in their life. Not everyone, no matter how motivated they may seem, are motivated at every moment of every day to do what needs to be done. I know for me personally, having end goals is something that keeps me motivated. So just thinking about the long term and where I want to be, not so much where I'm at right now, but I know that to get to where I want to be, I have to put in the work. So that motivation just comes from me wanting to be the best that I can be, both on and off the field. So I wake up every day and just try to put my best foot forward. But that doesn't mean that I don't have days where I'm unmotivated. So I would just say find something that works for you and something that keeps you on track. And also, if you're finding that something is just very unmotivating or you can't get yourself to get up and do it, then maybe that thing is just not for you, because if you're super passionate about something, then the motivation will follow that for the majority of the time. How did you balance relationships, athletics, food, and school? So one of the biggest things that I focused on in college was balance, and it may have taken me a while to kind of get in my rhythm, but I managed to work a job for all 5 years that I was in college, and I felt like I did a pretty good job of maintaining my relationships as well as performing well on the field and in the classroom. And I feel like I did that by prioritizing things and making schedules. So I know for me personally, I'm a very digital person. Like I take all of my notes on my iPad, everything's in my calendar on my phone. So I would just make notes of when things were due and set reminders for days before so I could get things done on schedule and not last minute. So that way I had time to go to work and then hang out with friends when I wanted to, versus being so bogged down with homework that I never really had time for anything else. So creating a schedule and maintaining accountability is huge if you want to balance a whole lot in life. Someone asked, is it stressful playing D1 soccer? How did you handle the pressure of playing college soccer? It's definitely stressful at times, but I would say that the stress isn't so much from the soccer side of things, it's more so from the balance that I was just talking about. So when you feel like you have a lot on your plate, it's really easy to get anxious or gain anxiety because you have too much going on at one time. So I would say that the stress was more so from everything going on outside of soccer, and then my stress relief was being able to step out on the field and actually play. In terms of handling the pressure though, in big moments specifically, like when we made it to the Final Four and stuff, I feel like that's probably when we faced the most pressure because it's win or go home. What was your recruiting process / what stuck out about WSU? So my recruiting process was quite different from most, I would say. I got recruited fairly late in the recruiting timeline compared to others because I didn't start playing soccer until much later, like I had mentioned. So my journey actually started when I transitioned from a small club team in my hometown to a ECNL team in a town that was about 2 hours from me. So I committed myself to driving 2 hours there and back about 4 days a week. And then I eventually got recruited at an ECNL event. So the biggest moment for me was probably my ECNL event in Seattle, which is where WSU mainly recruited me from. So I decided to go on my visit to WSU, and I think the biggest thing that stuck out to me was just the small town college environment and atmosphere that's created there. And everything is about the Cougs, everything is about Cougar athletics, and the support that you receive from the community is unlike any school that I have ever been to in my life. So I would say that that was the biggest driving force for me going there, as well as the fact that it was just a Power 5 school in a great soccer conference. So I would say that all of that combined was the reason I went to WSU. Someone asked, what do you think college would have been like without playing soccer? I think college would have been a whole lot different in a variety of ways. I think that I would have had a lot of time for other things, probably recreational things like exploring Pullman or the cities around Pullman. much more than I could have if I was playing soccer, because we just didn't really have the time to explore and travel because we were either in season or the weather was so bad that you just really didn't want to drive anywhere. So I think that time would be the biggest aspect that would change. But I also think that school wouldn't have been as stressful because I would have been able to attend classes versus being on the road for weeks at a time. And with the biology major, it was hard to make up labs. And so I think that that was probably the most stressful thing. And I don't think that I would have been as stressed had I been just a normal student and not a student athlete. Advice for someone deciding to play college soccer or not. So I feel like this is kind of a difficult question because I feel like if there's a slight vacillation, then maybe you don't want to, because playing a college sport is a huge commitment no matter what level. And it's definitely a blessing, but I feel like you need to be all in and you need to realize that your experience is going to be a little bit different than if you decided not to play soccer. So I think that my advice to you would be to decide what's important to you, the college experience or playing a college sport. It's just two different experiences, so I feel like it's hard to say, but I know for me personally that if I had the opportunity to do it all over again, I would 100% do it. And I just think that college sports teach you so many life lessons, and the experience was so invaluable that I would 100% recommend doing it. What is the best part about college sports? I think for me, the best part about college sports was just the camaraderie around the team, within the team, and outside the team. And I feel like that's also dependent on where you go to school, but I know that in Pullman, we had the best group of supporters and the best community to back us and support us throughout every single season. And it made it so much fun playing at home in front of our crowd. And then I think on the opposite side, the travel aspect is also a blessing and was probably one of my favorite parts of college soccer, because you got to see so many different parts of the United States and you got to see it with 25 of your teammates and friends. So I think that that was probably my favorite thing about playing a college sport. Someone asked, who was your favorite team to play in the Pac-12? And I want to say number one was for sure UW, because Apple Cup was just so different, because it's just such a deeply rooted rivalry that you can't help but get excited to play, and it's our last game of the season before the tournament every year. So I think that was probably hands down my favorite team to play every single year was University of Washington. What is your typical diet in and out of season? So I don't follow a diet. I just eat very intuitively, and I feel like I eat when I'm hungry. So my diet doesn't really change outside of season versus in. If I'm working out less or more, my appetite is either bigger or smaller, and I just eat accordingly. So I wouldn't say that I really have a diet. I do have a gluten intolerance, so I don't eat gluten, but that is pretty much it. I mainly focus on protein and carbs, but I do eat desserts. I do eat a variety of different foods, so I can't say that I have a typical diet. But I do have multiple videos on my YouTube channel of what I eat in a day and a grocery shopping list. So if you want to check out those videos, you will see a more realistic idea of the types of foods that I buy and the types of foods that I eat on any given week. What is your workout routine? So in the off season, I tend to lift 3 days a week, and then I do some sort of cardio 2 days a week, and then I normally take the weekends off to give my body some recovery. And then in season, we normally lift once a week, and then we had training all 4 days of the week leading up to our games. So in and out of season, our routine would be a little bit different, but that's kind of what my workout routine looks like now that I'm out of season. I lift 3 days a week, and I run or do some form of cardio 2 days a week. And if you want to see specific workouts that I do, I will be posting some of them in my YouTube videos, but you can follow my fitness page on Instagram to see my daily workouts. Someone asked, do you deal with body image issues? I personally don't really feel like I go through that many issues with my body. I'm a very built woman, and I have a lot of muscle in comparison to some females, and I know that that can be an insecurity of some people, and I've gotten some questions on that prior. But I look at it as my body is a blessing, and it provides me with the means to do what I enjoy doing, which is playing soccer. And so it's not so much about the way that I look, but what my body is able to do for me. And I feel like if we as a society could change the way that we look at our bodies, we wouldn't deal with so many insecurities, because everybody's body is going to look different and everybody's body is made to do something different. So I try not to compare myself to other people's bodies or look down on my body, because it has done so much for me over these years and is just a major blessing to me. How to deal with injuries / setbacks due to injury. So I have actually personally gone through 2 ACL injuries, and then I have had a minor ankle injury. But with all injuries, it's all about your mindset and your perseverance, because injuries are going to be both mentally and physically taxing no matter what the injury is. And for me, going through the same injury twice was difficult, but it also gave me a different perspective on my sport. So I would say to use injuries as a learning moment and also a time to get stronger and become more in tune with your body, because after all of my injuries, I always felt like I learned a little bit more about my body. So all in all, I kind of tried to look at the positives of being off the field, because it can be really sad to no longer be playing the sport you love. But I would say my biggest tip is to find the positives and stay surrounded by the game, because you also realize how much you miss the game and how much you may take it for granted, because when you can no longer play, just know you feel every second of that. So that is my biggest recommendation. Then someone asked, who do you look up to the most and why? And I would say that I look up to my mom the most, because she was just a great influence and a great role model to me as I was growing up. She just balanced so much between her work and bringing my brother and I to our various sports and just making sure that we were doing well academically. I feel like both my parents set us up for success, but my dad was working a lot more and couldn't be around as much, so my mom kind of took the load, and I just admire that she was able to handle all of that and get my brother and I to where we are now. So I am beyond grateful and thankful for having 2 of the most amazing parents that I could ask for. But yeah, I would say that I look up to my mom a lot. Someone then asked, do you have a boyfriend? And yes, I do. He's actually on my Instagram multiple times, but his name is Jalen, and I don't put him everywhere because I choose to put my life on social media, but I know that he likes to be private and I respect that. So he will make an appearance every once in a while, but he will not be on here often. And if you want to see more of him, you can head over to my Instagram to see some pictures. Someone then asked, besides soccer, what other sport would you play? And I would probably do track, because I do miss it and I loved track. And it was just a different type of training than soccer is, but yeah, I would say I miss track and I would definitely do it again. But I also really enjoyed playing volleyball, so I would say it would be between track and volleyball. Someone said, do you miss your youth soccer days? And I want to say no, because I'm just enjoying soccer so much right now that I like looking back and seeing how far I've come from the very beginning, but I don't know if I would want to relive those days. I think that I'm enjoying myself a lot right now. Someone said, where do you want to travel / dream vacation spot? For the longest time, my dream vacation spot and the #1 spot on my wish list to travel to is Bora Bora, and I will make that happen in the next couple of years. Someone said, what is your favorite type of food? I would say my favorite type of food would either be Mexican food or Asian food. And a random fact about me is that I really don't like chocolate that much, and I didn't like peanut butter up until college. Like, I refused to eat peanut butter. I absolutely hated it. But now I can eat it on my apples and in my oatmeal, and I really like peanut butter. So, random fact. Someone asked, what made you decide to start YouTube? And I feel like I had wanted to start YouTube for a while, but I never pulled the trigger and actually did it because I didn't have the time, and I was still doing my biology degree, so I was trying to balance a lot with soccer. And then in this 5th year, in my COVID year, I was only in 2 classes, and then I also had work, but I just had a lot more time to actually devote to YouTube, and so I finally did it. But the main reason I wanted to do it was because I know that my memory is gonna fail me later in life, and I'm not gonna have these vivid memories of the times that I had in college and the times that I had in my 20s and potentially 30s. So I just wanted to have something to look back on, and I figured that a video or multiple videos would be the best way for me to look back on these times and remember them. So yeah, that is why I started YouTube. And the final question of the day is, will you continue making vlogs / content on YouTube? And yes, I will. I absolutely love being able to take you guys along on my journey and sharing these moments of my life with you. And I know that looking back on this time, I will probably shed a tear watching these videos. But yes, all in all, I will continue making content. I will continue bringing you guys along through my journey. But I just want to thank you guys so much for your support and love. It never goes unnoticed. And I love being in contact and communicating with you guys through this platform.